It's okay now?
Now it's perfect.
Okay, good. So these are the two projects I'll be talking about. Virtual museum and finishing shipwreck project. You have the URL there. You know, it's worth, both are definitely worth a visit. I encourage you to visit them. So let me talk very quickly about the virtual museum. Malta is, I think, definitely one of the top worldwide sites, locations in Malta for wreck diving. The fact that we're surrounded by the sea, the fact that we were involved in maritime activities since forever, since thousands of years ago, the fact that we're very involved, let's say, in the last two world wars. So that leaves a lot of riches in our islands, in the seas around our islands, really. Also on land, but in, you know, in the seas, obviously that is more interesting for I think for your audience. Also, many more wrecks are being discovered through a University of Malta research project, and the wrecks that are discovered are documented by the team I form part of, and then in many cases they're opened to the public for diving. And that process is managed by the Underwater Culture Heritage Unit of Heritage Malta. So there's a whole scheme in place where one can come to Malta, hopefully one can start after COVID, hopefully soon. But you know, visitors who come to Malta can dive these wrecks through a booking system, through Heritage Malta, through licensed dive clubs. Very easy and actually very cheap to do so. So what do we have? We have many planes, we have many submarines, battleships from the last century, and ancient shipwrecks also, such as the Phoenician shipwreck that and then I'll talk about in the other short presentation. Many of these have been known and dived for many years. You know, for divers who come to Malta, you mentioned the Southwold, you mentioned the Polynesian, you mentioned the Stubborn. They know these wrecks quite well. But others, like I don't know, like the Olympus, for example, has been opened only the last couple of years. So and it's an ongoing process to open up new wrecks to divers. So it's, you know, there's always something to see when you're in Malta. I mean, for example, you can dive on a warplane. There are probably about, that I know of, 10, 15, maybe probably many more, which are diveable from 20 meters to 120 meters, if you wish to, if you have the skills. So there's something for everybody. So moving on, what is the Virtual Museum Underwater Malta? It was the initiative of the University of Malta and UCU, of Timmy Gambin, to create a website to provide a window into these riches. It's intended to guide as an interesting, let's say, site for the general public to visit, but also for the local and international diving community. It allows divers to pre-plan their dive, to understand what they're going to see, you know, before they dive them, and to give some background to each of the wrecks. It currently showcases around 14 sites, but more are in progress. In fact, as we speak this week, Fabio, we're undergoing some diving on some sites, which will form part of this website of the Virtual Museum, probably over the next 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. Obviously, once the work on preparing them is ready. Let me quickly, let me see if I can go into, let me stop this, and I think I can, yeah. Okay, you're still seeing the screen, you're seeing the website now, Fabio?
Yeah, now it's okay.
All right, so this is our website, virtual museum. Maybe many of you have seen it already. It gives you some background on the project, but really I want to go into a particular site to demonstrate, you know, how it works and how we're using the 3D models that we create using photogrammetry. So this is the B-24 Liberator. This is one of the sites that has been open to the public relatively recently, I think about a year ago. It's a site which we dived on, obviously, to document beforehand. And here you can see a very simple visualization of a 3D model here, which loads very quickly, which you can spin around, pause, and also open up annotations. Like, for example, I can here open.
But John, how many pictures you must take for realize this?
I'll answer that question soon, but many thousands actually. So yeah, many thousand.
Wow.
So here we have these annotations. For example, this is the site where we actually recovered a Browning machine gun. So this kind of model plus others can also be used, for example, to create more of a video kind of fly through. And this is just an example which I'd like to share with you.
Very
And
nice.
we use these for public outreach. We use these to advertise the sites, yeah, you can see the kind of thing that
Yeah, it's
we're
very,
able to.
very impressive.
Yeah. So this is showing the machine gun in the condition it was as we raised it from the site, and this was then passed on to Heritage Malta to do a conservation of this particular item. And here we can see what it looks like today after it's been conserved. So these are the kind of things that we do, and how we communicate with the general public. And we can also use a website called Sketchfab, where we can load the 3D model, and really, you can either go in with VR goggles if you have them, and actually walk around the site and see it in a 1-to-1 ratio, so in life size, or it's quite easy then to, the same wreck to spin it around and examine it, closely.
Very,
So
very
that gives you
nice.
a bit of an idea. Sorry?
Very, very nice made. Very nice job.
Thanks,
Very,
man.
very impressive.
Nice.
High
So,
quality also.
yeah, it requires a lot of work, So, for those of you who aren't familiar with photogrammetry, the process to create 3D models out of photogrammetry, basically, for a single wreck requires hundreds or even thousands of overlapping photographs. We process them on very high-powered computers with very specialized software, and many times it takes days and occasionally, where there is maybe some difficulty, weeks to develop this kind of 3D model. So to capture the data presents various challenges. Obviously, some of the wrecks are deeper. All the shallow wrecks have been documented. So now we're starting to work on the larger and deeper wrecks, Fabio. So the depth and the time we have on the site, I don't know, a wreck of 110 meters, you have maybe 10 minutes, 12 minutes on site, and the visibility is poor, service conditions, currents, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So just to give you an idea, this is a set of photographs, or a very small subset of photographs for the X-Lighter. It's a quite a well-known wreck in the harbor area, very shallow, on a slope though, but quite an interesting dive. So this gives you an idea of the kind of the sequence of photographs that we take, one after the other, in order to build this kind of 3D model. Thankfully, we're blessed with quite good visibility, so this is untypical. This is the X-Lighter, because it's in the harbor. The visibility isn't great, although I have friends of mine from Finland, for example, who would say that the visibility is brilliant, because we can see more than a meter. So it's all relative, I suppose. But this is quite typical, actually. This is the Schnellboot, about 65 meters, and this is just one frame we use to create the model you can see, if you like, on the underwater museum. What's next? So we're working on deeper and larger wrecks. For example, the Southwold, Nasturtium, Polynesian, Olympus. These are all, we're planning to do all these wrecks over the next few months to capture the data, build the 3D models, and then start releasing them on the website. The depths of these range from 65 to 120 meters, and the sizes from 40 to 150 meters long in the case of the Polynesian. So quite large wrecks. So in this case, we need to take a different approach. All the models you've seen are all done by actually holding a camera and swimming around, holding the camera in your hand and swimming around and taking photographs. But we've recently played around and experimented quite successfully with mounting the camera on a DPV, on a scooter, and the lights, and that's what we're doing at the moment for these larger wrecks. So this is an example of the setup we have here while we were doing the tests. So here we see the housing on one of your Moby platforms.
Yeah. It's nice, the Moby system, huh?
It's very, very good, actually. It's very good. The fact that it can rotate, you can remove the camera. So obviously we've spent a lot of work in making sure that the setup is completely neutral in the water, because we want the scooter to retain the trim and buoyancy with or without the camera. So everything else needs to follow from there. And here you can see actually myself doing a test, a shallow test when we're testing the setup. So obviously in this case, you need to use an intervalometer on the camera housing, and I'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the presentation. So what next? The Phoenician Shipwreck project. This is the Phoenician Shipwreck is really a jewel in our crown, I think, of underwater cultural heritage. It's a 2,700-year-old site, first discovered around 12 years ago. And over the last 3 years, I've been participating as a member in a project to excavate this in a small area of this wreck. The site is around 15 by 8 meters, I believe, something like that. So not a large site, but it's at 108 meters, 108 meters. So it is actually the deepest site anywhere in the world on which such a process is being undertaken. It's quite impressive, actually. You know, everything is done, let's say, by the book from an archaeology and an excavation perspective. So in this case, photogrammetry goes well beyond, the use of photogrammetry goes well beyond the creation of, let's say, a pretty an attractive model to showcase the wreck, because we're using photogrammetry now for very scientific and very rigorous documentation of the excavation process. So what we do at every season, which is 3 to 4 weeks in September, we start by taking a full model of the whole site at the start and at the end of the season, and every day as the excavation progresses, we take a daily scan of the excavation area, which is 4 meters by 2 meters. All the models are scaled very, very accurately, using a system that we learned and we developed further. And applied also with a very consistent local coordinate system. So that allows us then to overlay our daily models on top of each other, and allows us to measure depths, positions of items, measurements of items, etc., literally with millimetric accuracy. And this is again at 108 meters. So it's quite I think a good job that we're doing here. So this gives you an idea. I mean, I'm not going to, obviously, there's no time to get into any detail on how the system works, but you know, it involves putting down certain equipment which is scaled exactly and positioned exactly to be perfectly horizontal in the water, to set up points which are consistent and can be measured from on a daily basis. And the kind of result we get is this, you know, and it allows us to measure with accuracy objects on the site. Obviously, this is all very important for the scientific purposes and for the archaeologists who will be studying this data. Again, this is the kind of documentation that we produce. This is for 2019, and on a daily basis, we produce basically what's called an ortho in RGB in color, one which is ambient occluded, which means it gives a better visibility, like in black and white, of the depths, and it gives a really good feel of the structure of the site. And then compared, then what we call comparison models, if you like. So basically, it gives the depth as opposed to, for example, the first day, and as opposed to the previous day. So here we can track literally day by day, you know, what is changing in the site. And again, this is done in the afternoon after the dive. Straight away, we take the data back to our base, process the data, and produce these models, which are then used as a basis to plan the next day's excavation on the project. Another kind of output that we get from these models is a very high-res orthophoto. So this is effectively a 2D photograph in very, very high resolution of the whole site. Here you can see the markers we laid down. You can see the scale bars which we use to scale the site, for example. This is the mooring block on which we tie up the boat every day. So this small area here, which is about maybe, I don't know, 1 meter or 2 meters by 1 meter, maybe something like that, or even less, you know, it can be seen blown up, zoomed in over here. So literally down to the grain of sand. I mean, the resolution of this orthophoto is probably below 1 millimeter. So one can actually see, you know, in the orthophoto individual grains of sand. So it also allows archaeologists or researchers to research the site in the leisure of their own, you know, sitting down on a sofa with a laptop. You know, so we capture the data once, bring it up, and then people can use it to study the site and then make decisions on particular important activities that need to happen. So I want to play you to a very short video. We're reaching the end of my presentation. So this is the actual data capture process itself. Here we're on the site on one of the daily data collection activities. At over 100 meters, you can see swimming along the site and collecting the data. So the area bounded by that grid that you see is actually the area where the excavation is taking place. So I can't not mention the team. Obviously, these projects are the result of a tremendous amount of teamwork, and many people participate from Malta and from many other countries, from Finland, from the UK, from Belgium, from South Africa, from the US, from Spain, I don't know, Italy, of course. So I'd like to first of all recognize Timmy Gambin. Timmy is the brains and the energy behind these projects. He is a professor of maritime archaeology at the University of Malta. Very good friend of mine, very great friend of mine, and without him, basically, these projects wouldn't even be conceived. I'd like to move to Kari, my friend from Finland. Kari is the person who introduced me to photogrammetry about 5 years ago. And together, really, I mean, our photogrammetry duties are, you can say, spread across both of us. And sometimes, you know, we forget who collected the data, who built the model, who did what, really, because we work so closely as a team that it's almost as if we're one entity, basically, referred to affectionately by our tougher buddies as the 3D fairies. So that's me and Kari. Then there's Dave from UK, Gian Michele from Italy, our dive safety officers, and everybody else, really. I can't mention each person by name, but you know, and these are probably maybe half of the people who are involved in all these projects. So thanks to everybody for your help and support. Fabio, last thing, a word about the Easy Dive housings. Obviously, I wouldn't be here, I think, if we weren't using your housings, and it's a pleasure to talk about them. We've been using them intensively for many years. We probably have 5 or 6 housings between the whole team, including the university and the Heritage Malta. We principally use Sony mirrorless cameras, A7 III, A7S. I think the A7 IIIS now as well. For photogrammetry, we use stills, we use photographs. We used to use video, but now we use, with the intervalometer function provided on your housing, it makes it obviously much more feasible to use still images, which provide a far better result than video for many reasons. And the considerations for choosing your housings are a number. Obviously, the depth rating. I've talked already about the kind of depths we dive to, and there aren't that many housings around which allow you which you can take down to 150 meters. It's a universal housing, so obviously it allows us to upgrade the cameras regularly without having to throw away or change the housing. The programmable function and the fact that it's always the same buttons you press no matter the camera that you have, and the last thing you want to think about when you're trying to dive at these depths is which button do I press to change the aperture or whatever. Very important, the direct access to yourself, and I think in this time of COVID, the fact that you're quite close to us, makes it feasible to ship things to you and you ship back still quite easily, even with all the challenges that the world is facing with shipping. And finally, something, as you rightly said, we developed together, the intervalometer. To be honest, in the team, we're a bit split on the use or not use of intervalometer. I use it all the time. Others prefer taking photos by pressing the shutter release manually. However, what's for sure is that with the mounting on the DPV, you cannot do it any other way. We spoke about 6 months ago, I think, and I asked you if you could possibly develop into the firmware a variable intervalometer, so we could increase or decrease the speed between the photographs as we wanted to, and within a few weeks you were very kind enough to develop that for us, which we use. So it allows us to increase the frequency of the photographs, increase the overlap between the photographs, and gives us better models at the end of the day, which is what's important for us and for me.
Wow, thank you
Fabio,
so much,
that's
John. Wow, very precise. Your presentation is very. I think so that a lot of divers don't know well the photogrammetry, and I have seen your job in the last months with the university, with you. I know Dave, I know Carrie, I know a lot of your team. And I'm really happy to collaborate with you and with Malta, with Tini Gambi also, because for me I am honored to can give also our support, our experience, and I am really happy that you today explain to us, to our follower, what is the photogrammetry, and we hope that the COVID finish well, because we want to go to dive in Malta, because when I see the rig with the photogrammetry, wow, really impressive, the high quality of the files, very nice, and I think that this is very appreciated also for all our followers.
That's great. You're welcome. You have an open invitation, Fabio. Come when you want and we'll go diving.
Wow. Okay. Oh, John, many thanks for your presentation, and see you soon, I hope.
Thanks, Fabio. Thank you. Thanks for everybody. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Ciao, John.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.